What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Fitness for Life podcast. I'm your host, Jackson Lohr, and today I have with me Laura Matuszak, coming from Vermont. Laura, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Jackson.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited for our conversation. Um, I like to open this up at the very beginning and just have people hear a little bit of your story, what you do and how you came to that over the years. So yeah, talk to me a little bit about, your story, your intro to training and where you are now.
Great. So I have had the pleasure of coaching for 28 years now.
Wow.
I started for my last 27 years was really focused on youth swimming. So owned and operated a USA Swimming registered USA Swimming registered swim team for kids ages 6 to 19-ish for the most part, and was just blessed to be able to work with great children and families and help them navigate sport and life and the educational process and college and all of that great fun stuff. And we closed our business last year. Throughout that timeline, I was also CrossFit coaching on the side.
Okay.
So did that. I've done that part time now for 13 years at a wonderful gym in the greater Burlington area. And just love what I do. Love to be able to interact with people and help people with their goals and help them reach levels of fitness and joy in their bodies that maybe they didn't think that was even possible. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, that's it's not a uncommon going from sport coaching to fitness coaching, but I think you're the first person on this particular podcast I've had who's had that experience, especially with the longevity of experience in sport coaching. Especially swimming. For those who don't know, swimming is very conditioning. Like the rules of understanding how to condition the body, like swimming and track are the two sports that go very hand in hand with that. So there's a nice crossover there.
Absolutely.
Did you find that to be the case when you transitioned or started coaching CrossFit part time and then made that full time for you?
Yes, absolutely. And yeah, so I love all of the interval training. Any of
Yeah.
the endurance training stuff is a very natural fit for me. And so a lot of times I'll have to say when I'm coaching, like, oh, just slow me down. Forget I'm an endurance coach by heart, by nature originally. And this other
Yeah.
stuff comes a little bit, I've learned it later in life. So yeah, it's fun. It's fun to have that combination.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to dive in. I want to be respectful of our time today here. I want to dive into the topic we had talked about
Mhm,
exploring, which is the goal setting process. And I'm going to
mhm.
let you lead on this because what we talked about, what I've seen from you, your process is something I really like and may even fully adopt for those that I work with. So yeah, talk me through what your process looks like when it comes to goal setting and how you would recommend people do that.
Right. Well, I love goal setting. So the essence of training and coaching really is helping people reach their goals. And that's all it is, simply put, for me. And whether that's as, an 8-year-old swimmer or a 65-year-old grandpa who just came to the gym for the first time and has no idea how to use a dumbbell.
Yeah.
So either way, what's most important is what is valuable to that person. And so finding that out first and foremost is the key for me when I'm doing any of my training. So, in terms of the goal setting process, it always starts first and foremost with what your priority is. And when I talk about that with athletes of any background, it is what is your life priority? What's the most important thing to you? Because that's going to guide everything else, all the other decisions you make.
Yeah.
And one of the keys there is that there really can only be one priority. I think we in America, especially, like to have a million priorities and everything's important. But the truth is, you really can only manage one priority very well. And
Yeah.
that's actually the essence of the word as I understand it. The etymology of the word means that it's one
Yes.
thing. So that's really, really important. So giving people the time to sit down and really think through that. So right now, as we do that, in my training, I'll do that as a personal training session. We'll usually do a consultation and it'll start with that review. If I'm doing that with a group of athletes, that might be a group session where I would do that, where everybody sits and they have their journals and writes through what their priority is. For, a 12-year-old, that might be their friends, it might be their family, it might be school. Usually for adults, hopefully it's connections or relationships or family related somewhere in there.
Hmm.
And that's really important to map that out, why that's important, how that's important, and what that looks like, because that's, again, going to guide everything else.
Right.
Um, yeah. And so that takes some time. That could take 10, 15 minutes. Often, most recently, and where the original post came from is most recently, we just did a small group session with folks who were interested in setting goals at our gym. And so that was just, I gave folks about 10 minutes to just write, journal, think about that, what their priority is, how that's a priority, how they make that a priority in their lives, what that looks like, maybe in terms of time commitment,
Hmm.
reality, right? Oh, you say it's a priority and you spend 8 hours on it a week. So is that a priority? So really giving folks a chance to dig in and think about that. And then they had a chance to then share with the group if they felt like it, if they felt so moved, they could share what their priority is. So give folks a chance to really sit with that first as the foundation. And then after that comes the next steps. And that can look a bunch of different ways. And quite honestly, I don't even have my list right in front of me. But usually it looks something like, what is your primary fitness goal for right now?
Hmm.
Again, kind of outlining one thing. As a CrossFit coach, the beauty of CrossFit is that there are literally a million different movements to get good at. And that's really fun and entertaining and exciting, especially when you're first getting into it. And it can be very overwhelming,
Mm.
especially since now I've been coaching for 13 years, and so we'll see folks who have been doing this for 10 or 12 years and feeling like maybe they're a little stuck, maybe they haven't made much progress in some areas, and or just maybe need a new focus. And so really important to outline, okay, well, let's pick something, let's find something you want to get better at. We have the advantage of having excellent programming at our gym. So we do have a progressive yearly plan that's focused on strength and conditioning and making gains that way. And it's also important that people set their own individual goals as well, and not just rely on, hey, the programming's great, they're going to take care of everything for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, there has to be an engagement and an investment in their own goals as well, to really make those gains. Because it's easy to come in and say, well, the programming's all taken care of, I just show up, check the box, I'm good. So that's an important part of the process, is figuring out, okay, well, for the next 12 weeks at least, what is your focus? I like 12-week chunks, and we did talk a little bit about that recently
Mm.
in our small group setting. That works out to 90 days. That's kind of 3 month cycles. You could get all sorts of lunar cycles and all of those things. You could really go out there with it, but I do like that idea of that's enough time to really engage and dive into
Hmm.
something deeply, and you should see in 12 weeks some sort of measurable change, even
Yeah.
if it's very, very minimal. The other aspect of that 90 days, that kind of came up in our group discussion, which I think is just really interesting for folks to note, is that is often, that 90-day window is often used in addiction treatment as
Mm.
well as a significant marker. And so it just as a significant marker for habit change, for changing away from an addiction, that can be an important thing. And so that's always just an interesting side note to be sensitive to or be aware of, especially in fitness and wellness and health. Those sometimes those paths collide occasionally. So with that in mind, looking at that 12-week cycle, then we can really think about, okay, what is one thing that you can improve? What's something measurable that you can improve? We get all into, those basic markers of that SMART goal setting,
Hmm.
that super simple, but essentially something measurable that's meaningful to you. And then that's sort of the next big piece to me. Sure, it's it's measurable, there's a time domain, it's achievable. All of those are things that are important, but most important is what gives it meaning. And
Right.
so that's the next step to really dig into. What's it going to feel like when you reach that goal? How come that goal is meaningful to you? What is meaningful to you about that goal? And how is that goal connected to your priority? What's it going to mean if your family is your priority and back squat 400 pounds in 12 weeks? How does that tie into your priority? How does that make you a better parent, a better grandparent, or a better partner in your relationships? What does that look like? So those are the big key pieces in goal setting. And obviously in a group setting or even in an individual setting, that could take, half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour to
Yeah.
unravel. And it provides that opportunity as a coach to just keep asking questions, keep peeling the layers off there a little bit, in a positive way. I think the other thing that maybe Jackson, in your coaching experience is, sometimes in that, because we get those little windows of time with folks, sometimes that can be a time where folks want to share all the things that are going wrong, or all the things they want
Mm.
to fix, or all the things that aren't good about them. And so that's the other really essential part of the goal setting process, is that it's a positive orientation, and
Yeah.
it's about uncovering what the greatness that's already there.
Mm.
And how can we help you uncover that's how I'm looking at it. All right, that's within you already. That 400-pound back squat, 500-pound back, that's already in you. That is within your genetic capability. Like, how do we make that greatness come out? And
Mm.
how can your behaviors to get to that, right, reveal your greatness?
Yeah.
So that's really the magic in it, and why I value goal setting. Not so much for the goal achievement at the end. That's really
Right.
cool. But it's those deeper processes and those opportunities to really think about what we value and what's important to us,
Yeah.
that make it so important.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
phenomenal. And I think, you mentioned something there at the very end, how it's those behaviors that we know are going to get us toward, move us in the positive direction towards that goal,
Yes.
that are important. More honestly, more so than the goal itself.
Absolutely.
And one of the things I'll do with my clients or people who I'm working with is we'll talk about goals. At the very beginning, we talk about, because we do want to, we want to make progress, we want to achieve those
Yes.
goals, but a lot of times people become obsessed with the goal,
Mm-hmm.
and get impatient with the behaviors that are going to get you there. So a lot of times what I will do is say, hey, okay, here's the goals.
Yep.
Based on those goals, let's talk about all of the things that need to be present in terms of the actions that you're doing, the mindset that you have to have,
Mm-hmm.
that's those sort of things. Now let's ignore the goals for the next, 10 to 12 weeks for now. Focus on the behaviors, focus on just being consistent. You don't have to be perfect, but being consistent, showing up,
Yes.
doing those actions that are
Mm-hmm.
going to get you to where you want to go.
Yes.
And goals are a great way to help reverse engineer, like, exactly what behaviors those have to be. Those
Mm-hmm.
actions have to be, but it doesn't have to be, daily, every single thing perfect, because that's when we're only looking at the goal and we're only looking at perfection, that's when we lose sight of what really matters there. So I'm really glad that you mentioned
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah, I love that idea too. And that's, that will happen all the time. I think a lot of it in sport coaching, especially, right,
Mm.
is you'll have those markers of all, and they're hard markers a lot of times,
Yeah.
especially in the sport of swimming. Like, you're picking a goal time, and if you don't get that time, like, stuff happens.
Yep.
You miss the opportunity to go to a meet or whatever it may be. And so, yeah, a lot of the part of the process is exactly what you said, that breaking it down into the smaller pieces, the day-to-day actions that need to happen. And sometimes my energy will be like, hey, we're training our goals today, right? This is the time you want to go. And we're going to break it down into smaller parts, and you're going to practice that time, but just broken up a little bit. And so celebrate it along the way, and notice it along the way, and
Mm.
notice the changes that you're making along the way, and the behaviors and the actions that you're taking along the way, to get there. Notice those connections is really important, because there are going to be times when, you know, we get there, that 12 weeks is up, that hard test is there, and we do it and we miss it.
Yeah.
And that's an okay part of the process too. That is, something that I think is definitely a challenge as a coach and as an athlete, as a client. Those, we'll see it as coaches,
Oh
a
yeah.
million miles
All the
apart.
time.
So we know we're getting to that hard marker, and they've done a lot of great things and they've made some progress, and we're getting closer to that goal. But in 12 weeks, we're going to have to move that marker out again. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it's having that in the back of your mind of making sure that you're emphasizing all the great behaviors that
Mm.
are supporting that goal, and they will lead to that goal along the way. And you know it and you see it in them, and we're on the right path, and we just need a little bit more time.
Yeah.
So that's another fun part of the process that, if you're open and to talking and you've got that conversation going already about a goal, like you said, yeah, focusing on behaviors, focusing on those things that are happening that are really great. And regardless of the outcome, we're going to get closer to the goal no
Mm-hmm.
matter what. Yeah. So that's really where we're at and that's really where the value is. And more often than not, when you're rewarding those things and when you're recognizing those things and acknowledging those things, those behavior changes with your athletes, they're going to feel that too. They're going to know this matters more to me really
Yeah.
than the end number or the weight on the scale or the weight on the barbell.
Yeah.
Or the time in the pool. Like they'll recognize all the other positive things that came along with it. So I still think, because you'll get that, we'll get that too, especially from like younger athletes, teenage athletes, or frankly, folks who don't yet have the confidence in themselves, right? They want
Mm-hmm.
they want to make sure that their goal is attainable because they don't want to feel bad if they don't get to their goal. And I understand that, right? And that's a part of me thinks that, what, it's okay if we don't reach your goal and we're both upset about it, because that's just more fuel for the fire to keep working toward it. And what gives us that, again, that marker of like, hey, look at all these things that you've done. That's so cool. And you wouldn't have done that if you hadn't set that goal. So
Yeah.
yeah. So it's just I just love the goal setting process. Obviously
Yeah.
it has a ton of value regardless of the outcome. It always has value as a really significant marker of what your day-to-day actions are and what your consistency is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, for me as a coach, getting to see, clients or people that we're working with go through that process themselves. And there's two things here. One, like really seeing what's important to them.
Yes.
And if they can really break it down, you're able to connect with them like that. And
Mm-hmm.
really understand like, okay, this is not just about, if it's weight loss, it's not just about my weight.
Mm-mm.
It's about, whether or not I'm comfortable being in family photos, right?
Yeah.
Or
Yes.
comfortable, in my own skin, even
Yes.
going out in public. I know
Yes.
there's people I've worked with who that's the case. They're not
Yes.
comfortable with those things, and they want to be. And whether it's
Yes.
how they move or how they look, like both of
Mm-hmm.
those things are things that can really drastically impact their life. And so seeing like those sorts of things, like, okay, number on the scale doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
How you feel in your own skin, and how you feel when you see yourself. That's how your self image there really
Yes.
is a
Yes.
big, much bigger deal, because it impacts how you interact with your family, your friends, even yourself. So yeah, stuff like that. That's the one thing. And then for me, I also really, on the flip side, I really love getting to work with people and seeing them achieve more than they thought they were originally capable. So now
Yes.
when they originally came, it's like, okay, I had this goal of, I want to move a little bit better, and they're thinking small to start,
Mm-hmm.
and then 6, 8, 12 weeks down the line, now like, oh, this could really be something different. Like I could do something a little bit bigger. I just had a client of mine. We had a conversation this past week, that she has always, so mobility is very challenged. Balance is very challenged. She's always had to use tricycles to get around, not bicycles.
Mm-hmm.
And we just had the conversation of maybe it's possible. And she's sick. Nah, she's over in her 60s.
Yeah.
And so this is the first time in her life that she's like, it could be possible. She's not keen on
Yeah.
the idea of doing it very often because it's
Yeah.
just out of her comfort zone.
Yeah.
But yeah, something like that where it's like something that was once thought to be impossible is now on the horizon.
That's,
Not there yet, but it's on the horizon as potential, right?
oh,
And that's our role as coaches to, to speak into that and to encourage that and to be that positive voice that counteracts potentially up to a lifetime of negative self-talk.
oh, beautiful. What powerful examples
Yeah.
of the power of goal setting right there. And again, it gets down to the essence of what their values are and
Mm,
and the essence of them who they are, right? And who they think of themselves as.
yeah.
That goal is sort of a reflection of that, that gives us that little window in to, yeah, provide that positivity and that, yeah, that bolstering along the way. And I think those are just beautiful examples, Jackson. The nutrition one and the weight loss one is so powerful because
Mm,
I think for so many people, it's not about the number on the scale at the end of the
right.
day. It's what that number on the scale means about how they think of themselves, how they see themselves, and then, like you said, how that, yeah, impacts their interactions with the rest of their family. So having that, that goal and understanding that that goal isn't really the goal. Yeah, that
Right.
goal is much deeper, much bigger,
Mm,
allows you that sensitivity to really be present to them through those ups and downs and those challenges and really guide them in navigating that process. So I love yeah, how critical that is to, like you said, your self-talk, your self-image, and then ultimately, right, we hope that through that, they get to that point where like, whoa, if I did that, yeah, I can ride a bicycle for the first time in my 65 years on this planet, or whatever it may be.
yeah.
That's really, really powerful. And that's the essence of great goal setting, is that it leads us to that direction where, again, their true selves, their best selves can shine through.
Yeah.
I
Absolutely.
love that.
That's phenomenal. Um, we're getting close to the end of where we want to be in terms of time, Laura. So is there anything, surrounding goal setting or even just, the process of the achievement, what that looks like? Is there anything you feel like we would be valuable for people to hear that we haven't yet covered in this, 20 some minutes here?
No, I think really, like I said, you gave such great examples. That those were just so on point. And again, that I just think the key part of goal setting, no matter what, again, is that I think of it as a privilege to be a
Mm,
part of the journey alongside someone. So it's part of the coach athlete relationship. It's kind of for me, it's always been the heart of the coach athlete relationship, or that's where it starts. And that's sort of our roadmap together. And that can help just guide me when I'm feeling confused or lost or sad or whatever in the process, because that will happen for coaches too,
yeah.
along with athletes. We want for our athletes as much as they want for themselves. So, to keep being able to come back to that and remember, like, okay, they had to miss a session today because their kid was sick. Remember, their priority is their family. So
Mm,
let's find a way to bring this into back to their goals. Hey, sorry you had to miss a session today. Hope even though you had to miss a session today because your kid is sick, maybe you guys can go out for a little walk, enjoy some time outside. Let's do some nasal breathing while you do that. And we're still on track with your goals. Don't you worry about it, because you're focused in on your priority. That's what matters the most. And we're going to get there. So it, again, just allows that sort of framework to work with your athletes and continue to have the hard conversations, to continue to navigate the challenges, the ups and downs. And yeah, it just has always helped me guide that coach athlete relationship, and allow for, yeah, just a sensitivity and a deepening of understanding that has a ton of value in the long run. I, I'm sure you feel the same way, right?
yeah.
It's just as exciting when your athlete achieves a goal than when I achieve my own training goal.
Yeah.
Like it's
Honestly,
made,
more so. Like
yes, yes,
if I achieve a training goal, sure, I'm fired up. But if
yeah,
I, and people who've listened to this podcast for long enough or listened to this show for long enough, like they know I'll brag about my clients far more than I'm talking about myself.
absolutely.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's way more fun to see other people achieve their goals. And I think that's, it's better to give than to receive in that regard. So
Yeah.
that's the way I see it. But I
Yeah.
think that's a great place to kind of wrap things up for us, for today. Laura, if people are looking to learn more or hear more from you, where would they go?
That is a great question. My social media game is not the greatest, so I'm actually alarmed that my social media gave you any any pause. So thank God. What is my tag? Coach underscore Laura underscore Matuszak, I think, or Laura Matuszak. Laura, I don't even know.
That sounds about
Uh,
right.
yeah.
That sounds pretty close.
So sorry, but
It's okay.
that's probably the best way to reach me is probably through Instagram and DM. Feel free to
Okay.
DM me with any questions. I'd love helping coaches chatting through it, and I certainly have as much to learn about goal setting and the whole process as I do to share. So reach out, ask questions, and we'll grow together. I love it.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for hopping on today, and for those listening, thank you guys for tuning in. We hope you got something really great out of this, as much as we did. So we'll see you
Thank
guys
you
next
so
time.
much, Jackson. Thank you.
Absolutely.